We're about to see the CPI figures a little bit later this morning, and we're being warned that we're not going to like the numbers. Inflation back out of that bottle. Joining me live now is Liberal Senator Jane Hume. Jane, thanks so much for your time. It's not often that we have the Treasurer kind of forewarn us and really soften the blow that I feel like it might be coming today. Are you surprised that we're seeing another spike in inflation?
No, Laura. In fact, the Coalition aren't at all surprised. We've been trying to sound these alarm bells for some time. Labor's continued spending, the fact that now spending as a proportion of the GDP has gone up so much that it's now at record levels, is one of the factors that is driving inflation. And that played out in the monthly figures last month. Of course, the figures that we expect to see today will show that inflation has stayed higher for longer because government spending has been too high for too long. And it's Australians that are going to pay the price. The RBA have been sounding these bells for some time too. They've said that if inflation stays above that 2 to 3% band, that the chances of bringing down interest rates that affect mortgage holders, business lenders, people that have a personal loan will be so much harder. It makes the RBA's job that much harder if the government isn't pulling its fiscal levers so that the RBA doesn't have to pull so hard on the monetary policy levers. Yeah. This has been an enduring feature of this Labor government, where we've seen interest rates go up 12 times before they came down 3 times. But now they're stalling. The RBA is stalling, and it's Australians that are paying the price.
Sure, but let's look at some of the facts here. As you say, government spending, one of the factors. The other major factor, it seems, in these figures today is going to be that a lot of state subsidies for energy is coming off. Do you accept that?
It's not just that energy subsidies are coming off, it's that energy prices are rising. Energy prices have risen for household bills around 40% in the last three years alone. And you can see when businesses go out of businesses and households join energy hardship programs, that this is becoming an enduring feature of a Labor government. Whether it's businesses like Tomago Aluminium that are now looking at $1 billion taxpayer-funded bailout, or Incitec Pivot Fertiliser, or Kinos Plastics, or Oceania Glass in my home state of Victoria. These are large industrial bases that are now either moving offshore or shutting their doors entirely because of rising energy prices. We can't simply keep providing taxpayer-funded subsidies as band-aids over the problem. The problem needs to be addressed at its source. We need more supply of energy into the system, and that requires a technology-neutral approach, starting with gas, but then opening up our investment to things like nuclear energy and new technologies that will allow us to bring energy prices down over time and rebuild that industrial base.
Okay, but that takes time. Even if you were in government now, bringing on more supply, bringing down prices, as we've heard from many of the retailers and the gentailers, that's going to take up to 10 years. I mean, this isn't just a 3-year run-up. Your government was in power for 10 years and can take part of the blame here.
The most important thing now we can do is put those signals out there to the market that Australia is open to business, open to new investment, particularly in new gas, opening up new gas reserves, whether it be in Narrabri or Scarborough or Beetaloo or Bass Strait. There is gas there that we can access. We need to make sure that the government sends the right signals to those investors that we are open to their investment in new gas reserves so that we can bring down prices as quickly as possible. We need new renewables. Do not get me wrong. Of course, there is going to be continued investment in renewable energy sources, but we also need to make sure that we can firm up that baseload power that is going to keep our industrial base open, keep businesses open, and bring down household prices over time.
Well, how do you do that when Yallourn, Eraring are due to close by the end of this term, perhaps early into next term? Nuclear would be 10 to 15 years away. The government's about to announce a gas reservation. I mean, what would you do? What would your side of government do to bring down prices?
Well, I think Susan Lee has actually brought out a policy, I don't know whether you've noticed it, just in the last week or so, Laura, to make sure that energy is affordable and reliable, that we shore up the grid, but we bring down household energy prices. It's about having that technologically agnostic approach, making sure that we reduce the barriers to investment and open our minds to those new supply sources, both now and in the future. Renewables will always be part of the picture. They absolutely always will be. But we also need to make sure that we shore up our baseload power, starting with gas. And we can't go into this. We have to make sure that we, put all our resources behind making sure that we shore up our grid and that we bring on new supply.
Just talking about the budget, the government's budget, looking at these inflation figures today, we see a story today about efficiency dividends in the public service and Katie Gallagher ordering departments to find some 5% of savings. Do you welcome it? Is it enough? Is it about right?
I cannot believe that we're now reading headlines about this a year after we already said that Labor's budget figures around this public service were dodgy. They said that they were either going to have an $11 billion black hole or they were going to cut the public service by around 20,000 people. Now, that's what their budget data said. Katie Gallagher and the Prime Minister and Jim Chalmers came out and denied this. They said that the public service was right-sized. Well, of course, now that we're getting into my EFO season, you can see that the fiscal whites of their eyes are showing. And we're now seeing that they're going to cut the public service and they're looking for efficiency dividends well beyond the 1% that's in the budget. That $5.6 billion, that's an enormous saving. That is the equivalent of about a 5% efficiency dividend on top of the 1% that they already have. So the question really is today for the Prime Minister, where are these cuts going to take place? Are they going to be in frontline services? Are there going to be cuts to Medicare? Are there going to be cuts to social services, social security? Are there going to be cuts to Veterans Affairs? Where are these cuts going to take place? Because when this government talks about efficiency and reprioritisations, well, all that simply means is that they're moving the chess pieces around, they're moving the deck chairs on the Titanic, but they're not actually making the savings that they need.
But you welcome this, right? You want to see these savings made in the public service. So where do you think the fat should be cut? This was examined and campaigned on before the last election. Should there be job losses in the public service? Is that where the fat is?
Well, these are the questions that we're going to be asking the Finance Minister next week at Senate estimates, because quite frankly, this is the first that we've heard of this. In February this year, the Finance Minister Katie Gallagher came out and said the public service is the right size. It's the right size now, but it's increased by 38% since they came to government.
So you think jobs should go
in the size of the public service?
You think that fat needs to be trimmed? It means people should go.
Well, clearly the Finance Minister thinks that jobs need to go. What we want to understand is where she thinks those jobs need to go.
With her?
Because something's got to give. Well, I don't know. I don't know because I don't know where those jobs are going to go.
No, but you think the public service is bloated.
Then it's Australians that are going to pay the price.
You do think the public service is bloated, Jane. So is it fair to say, as we sit here and have this conversation this morning, and I appreciate you want to keep the heat on the government, that there should be and will be job losses in the public service?
And if there are, then they shouldn't be to those frontline services, whether it be Medicare, whether it be social security, whether it be Veterans Affairs. They should be protected because they're delivering for all Australians. But where has the growth occurred? And why has that growth occurred? Why have we seen a grow out in 38% in the size of the public service? Because let's face it, I don't know about you, Laura, but I don't feel 38% better served by the government than I was just 3 years ago. And yet we've seen this enormous increase in the cost of running the government. So clearly Katie Gallagher, Jim Chalmers and Anthony Albanese have seen that this is an unsustainable level of growth. Now they have to make those decisions as to where they're going to make the cuts. I want to understand exactly where that is.
So you're talking about department jobs, really. What department do you think is most bloated?
I don't know, and that's why we're going to ask those questions at Senate estimates, because this is not my decision to make. This is the Finance Minister's decision to make. She was the one that allowed the public service to blow out by 38%, and now she's the one that's determining that we need to cut the public service, cut services by $5.6 billion, by an additional 5% efficiency dividend. So it's up to Katie Gallagher now to explain where those cuts are going to occur.
Okay, Jane Hume, great to talk to you. Thanks so much.
You too, Laura.